Yeah, this year not as crazy, but the Buffalo Sabres, who are in a very interesting situation in and of themselves, have the number one pick in this year's draft. Um,
What is their need? Who do you think they're going to go for, Kev?
Oh, I think it's.
they probably.
I asked Kevin there, Sean.
Well, the consensus they're not the consensus. The majority number one pick is Owen Power. I don't see them deviating too much for that. I think a lot of this has to hang on. I think a lot of this will have to just do with deciding what happens with Jack Eichel and if he stays or if he goes. Now, I'm going to throw a scenario out. I'm going to forgive me. This may be hot takey, but I think if this is the year that could happen, could Buffalo trade the number one pick?
Maybe. I think right now, yeah, you're right in the fact that I think it is all dependent on what happens with Jack Eichel, along with Sam Reinhart. Mm-hmm. If one of them gets traded, they go Matt Benier's. I think that's who they go with the first overall pick. I think they'd be very happy with him. He's a forward, a natural center, so that could replace potentially in the future, as well as whatever they get for one or both of those of Reinhart and Eichel. And they've got their number one defenseman in Rasmus Dahlin, and they've got some other decent defensemen that's on the younger side that could potentially continue to grow. So I think if I'm making a prediction, I think they go Matt Benier from Michigan and the U.S. development team. I think that's who they would go with, and then Seattle runs to pick up Owen Power.
There's a few scenarios going through my head. The other scenario is Buffalo could move back and still get beignets and probably get a few extra draft picks, which probably would be a need in Buffalo.
You'd have to have some absolutely amazing opposition research to know that you'd get Beignet later, like in third or fourth pick.
Well, it is all going to depend on what everybody is going to need. So, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that like the Buffalo Sabres consider moving this pick.
Oh, I don't think it is, but I think it's right now. I think the two majority 1-2 picks. I think if you I think it would be Power and Beignet, and I think if you move down, you potentially lose your shot at getting Beignet, who I think is probably your best option at center at the top of this draft.
If Buffalo does decide to trade either Eichel or Reinhart, they got to trade both of them. Realistically, even if it is a Reinhart that they're going to trade and keep Eichel, I think that they need to solidify what they are doing. Because if they keep either of those players, yes, Eichel is better than Reinhart, but they are telling their fans that, okay, there's still hope right now. And from my perspective, this needs to be either a complete rebuild and just clean house on players that you can get prospects for. Obviously, you still need to have a competitive team that will, not tank and have another tankathon, but you got to give some sort of message to your Buffalo Sabres fans that there's somewhat hope within the future. And yes, that sounds a bit counterproductive by saying, yes, trade Jack Eichel, but the haul that you would get back for Eichel and Reinhart, oh my goodness, they will get prospects, A-level prospects, and you'll have a bunch of draft picks within that as well. So I personally think that they should be selling both those players and getting all types of prospects and picks in return, so they can help have a well-rounded team. Because you still have Dahlin, on the back end. You still have Rasmus Ristolainen, who could be a potential trade bait as well. And someone might pick him up because he is a bit older. He doesn't have the best statistical numbers for analytical people out there who follow that, but he still is a middle pairing defenseman that can play pretty damn well on your PK. So there's a lot out there that they could get in return for all of those players. And like I said, then you build around Rasmus Dahlin.
Now, if you galaxy brain this, and Buffalo's tried to do this before, and you trade away Eichel and Reinhart, maybe you do go Owen Power, because you've got, at that point, you're basically on another rebuild, right? And yep. Kevin said this many times about wanting to try and get the next, getting top picks in the next two drafts. And yep. the top picks are forwards, and specifically they've got a couple centers that are very well, very top end, and are generational franchise level players. So if that's the case, then you go Owen Power, and you've got your blue line with Dahlin and Power to go forwards, and then you go from there and hope maybe you get a Bedard or a Shane Wright.
Right, 22, Bedard 23. Go ahead, Devin.
So in our comments here, Ty Jet, he says fans and owners of the Buffalo Sabres won't wait for a rebuild. You know, like what do they have there right now?
What can
realistically they do? That this is the best option for longevity and having a contender for a long period of time. Yes, it's not going to be right now, and yes, oh my God, does my heart go out to the Buffalo Sabres fans? They've gone through so much shit, and they have not been rewarded for getting a Jack Eichel second overall, and who should have been the turning point within that organization. But I think that truly this is the best road to go to make sure that you don't have a potential Oilers situation where you have like one or two players that are amazing, but then you don't have the depth to help them and to help that team push forward to be a contender for the playoffs, to be a contender for the Stanley Cup. I think that if I'm Kevin Adams, that's what I'm pitching towards ownership, and that's what I'm saying towards the fans, that yes, it's been very, very shitty for you guys for the past decade and a half, but you know what? Let's rebuild here and let's keep going.
And even then, like, if Eichel doesn't want to be there and he wants out, and Reinhart wants out, what you're not going to replace those players in that trade.
No,
because what you're going to get is you're going to get sort of second line, good players, but second liners, and then futures. So that basically is a rebuild, retool, whatever, however you want to call it. But next season is going to be another painful season because you're not going to have your true number one center. You're not going to have Sam Reinhart, who is a very versatile player who can be your second line center, be a first line center, be a first line right winger, and play tough minutes. You're not going to have that if you trade those guys. You're not going to get those players like that back in those trades unless someone completely overthinks things and does a 1-for-1 trade. And I don't know who's out there that would potentially want to do that. And I don't think especially for Eichel, I don't think there's a 1-for-1 trade out there that makes sense for anyone. So I think there is longer term is how you have to approach what's happening with Buffalo. And I think with Buffalo and their fans, if you show a plan and you show that the owners are starting to care and the GM has a plan and is going and all that, I think that they'll get behind it. They're smart fans in Buffalo.